evening to everyone who has joined in. We have an exciting lineup of speakers and topics coming your way, talking about what Startup Bridge Canada is all about and what's on offer. But before getting to that, let me quickly run you through a deck which gives you a little bit of a background and context and why Startup Bridge Canada is something that you should look out for. So let me quickly share my screen and play a deck. There you go. There you go. So, very quickly, Startup Rezo is who we are. Me and my co-founder Shweta Tiwari, who is also amongst you in the audience and who you will hear from later on, started the company about a year and a half back. Startup Rezo, the name, made up of two words, startup and Rezo. Startup, which very clearly articulates who our target audiences, who we work with. Startups are at the core of everything that we do. Rezo is a French word which stands for or means network. Uh, and these are the four networks or the pillars that make what Startup Rezo is. So we work with enterprise, which means we work with large corporates in setting up corporate accelerators and innovation labs, M&A practice, and so on and so forth. That is the core of our business. The second one is capital. We are pretty much on the way to start an early stage venture fund, which should be live anytime Q1, Q2 of year 21-22. The idea is to get to a $10 million early stage fund that would invest in B2B software, enterprise tech startups. But we're still a couple of quarters away from that. And thanks to the current pandemic, where most of the things or many things have been pushed back by a bit. The third piece is markets, and that's exactly what we are here for. We work with governments in co-creating soft landing market access programs, and we operate our own brand of programs as well, which enable companies to successfully transition into new markets by providing them soft landing services and market access programs like the ones that we are going to talk here today about. And the fourth part of our business is services. We run our own brand of boot camps, accelerators, events and conference properties, and we also do some custom knowledge report for our industry partners. So that's the reso or the network that we bring to the table. And this is our global reso or global network. So even though we are headquartered in Mumbai, India, we have a ton of partners touching different continents and countries, currently across 10 countries and about 23 strategic partners that we have with whom we do a good amount of work. A big chunk of our focus is emerging markets. So apart from India, South and Southeast Asia, Middle East, Africa is where we are betting big for the next 6 to 18 months. And very soon you will probably hear about some operations that we set about in these markets. Having said that, we also work very closely with countries like Canada, Australia, UK, and Denmark, with whom we do some strategic bilateral work. So going global is no longer an option. Also, increasingly, Indian technology companies are building products right here out of India, out of Mumbai, Bangalore, wherever you are, but not just for the Indian market, but largely for global markets. Also, there is a ton of companies which are building from India, but building only for the Western markets. At the same time, while we keep hearing about the unicorns and the decacorns and their kind of global expansion and the ton of money or the truckload and the boatload of money that there is, for every such unicorn, there are also those under the radar kind of companies which are slowly building some really good, solid, strong products, which may not be kind of achieving unicorn status, but they're doing exceedingly well for themselves. And they're kind of the torchbearers of India's software and product stories. And there are a good number of these B2B software enterprise tech companies which have fairly large or decent global presence. Through Startup Bridge as a program or a platform rather, our goal is to take fast growing Indian companies which have global aspirations to newer markets. And when I say newer markets, some of these markets where we are already operating and we are doing some work, we have a fairly strong network of whether it is governments, whether it is economic development agencies, universities, people running incubators and accelerators, some corporate partners, and so on and so forth. So Startup Bridge as a property or as a program is basically for bringing together or putting together a programmatic approach which enables a company to soft land into a new market and helping them with market access, right? By putting together a very strong structure, not just introductions, not just kind of go exchange cards, none of those, but kind of curating a set of people on the other side or organizations on the other side who will actually help you transition your business into that market seamlessly. So with that, I'd like to welcome you to the virtual launch event of Startup Bridge Canada. We have a very solid next 90 minutes lined up for you. We have a panel discussion where you will hear from three Indian entrepreneurs or founders who have successfully gone on to set up their business in Canada and build a global business out of there. We have Lloyd from Boast.ai, who is going to talk about. So one of the things Canada is known for is R&D and innovation, and the tax credits that the government kind of gives back to people doing innovative work and research and development. And Lloyd is going to talk more broadly about the innovation and R&D ecosystem and how Boast.ai is helping such innovative technology companies reclaim or claim those tax credits from the government. And then finally, to close off the day, we have Sunil Sharma, who is the managing director of Techstars Toronto. First, he's going to be talking about the global application process that Techstars is running. So sitting right out of here in India, you could be a part of Techstars Toronto program. But at the same time, he's also going to do a quick AMA where he's going to take about 8 to 10 questions that we have received from the audience, talking about or addressing some of those questions as to why Canada in the first place. In addition to that, we also have a couple of speakers representing governments. Firstly, we have Neeraj Gupta, who is the Chief Advisor, Technology and Innovation to Invest Alberta, talking about Alberta's innovation ecosystem. And then we have Chris Begley, who is the Consul Economic Affairs for the province of Ontario, managing the Munich and the Delhi Mumbai office, talking about Ontario's innovation ecosystem. So having said that, coming to what is Startup Bridge Canada, I'm going to quickly run you through this. Happy to take questions at the end of the program, and anyways, you can reach out to my colleague Gaurav or myself if you want to know more. The website will be up today, and it will have a good ton of information on it with FAQs. So Startup Bridge Canada is essentially a 6-week pre-market entry startup program, and our vision is to identify top 50 B2B software enterprise tech market ready companies from India which are looking at expanding or building a business in North America, and how they can use Canada as the beachhead or soft landing into the region. So if you are a fast growing Indian B2B software enterprise tech startup, this program is cut out for you. And what is in it for you as a founder, co-founder, CEO of the company? If you're listening to this, if you're watching this, why should you get into this program, or what is in it for you? Helping you build branding and a strong positioning strategy for North America, helping build a local team, leverage the big talent ecosystem that Canada has on offer, establishing a very strong North American network of different kinds of stakeholders, whether it is customers, partners, investors, so on and so forth. Access to resources from governments, the programs and incentives that are run by both provincial and federal governments, access to resources which will help you understand the business regulations and the business environment and why set up in Canada in the first place. Also, hear from thought leaders and people who have been there, done that. How do you go about selling in North America? I mean, what is the kind of sales process that you would follow to sell in a broader North American context? Building a very strong peer network, not just between the 50 odd companies that we would have as a part of the cohort, but also the extended ecosystem that we'll bring into the play. Access to investors in the North American context, and more importantly, soft landing your business in a large market via our program partners, which will help you prepare to launch in the North American market. That's what is in it for you as a founder. What's the program outline like? We already have about 25 odd mentors and advisors signed up for the program, 10 plus partners who are going to be assisting on the soft landing side. And this is going to be customized 50 hours plus of live programming. So no recorded sessions or anything of that sort. It is going to be purely live sessions that you will be part of during the course of 6 weeks. The good part is Canada is exactly the opposite time zone to that of India. So after you finish your working day and being fairly productive at it from 9 to 5 or 10 to 6, the program is going to run from 6:30 until 8:30 or 6:30 until 9:30, so 2 to 3 hours. It may or may not be every day, but we estimate that in a week it will be 8 to 12 hours of cumulative programming, and over 6 weeks that would roughly come to 60 odd hours. There are going to be workshops and masterclasses, keynote sessions, one-on-one chats with founders, investors, and other ecosystem players. There are going to be kind of broader access to the government resources I spoke about. So essentially, it's going to open up your gateway to North America. So, like I said, we have some very good program partners, and this covers or this ticks different boxes. On one hand, we have the federal government of Canada as a standing partner, but then we have a couple of provincial government partners, we have city partners, we have technology partners. It will give you, or it will open up access for you into universities for accessing the talent ecosystem, incubators and accelerators, which are going to act as your soft landing pad, economic development agencies that will open up resources which will help you access different stakeholders. There are going to be startup enablers like Startup Canada, which is the pan Canadian or the national program bringing together the different startup ecosystem stakeholders in the country. And we'll keep adding to this as we go along. The program is going to be running from 15th of Feb until 31st of March. So we're still about a couple of months away. And this list will just keep adding. We already have very good champions, ambassadors as program mentors, and very reputable names that you can kind of go and look up on the website and look at their background. So very solid pedigree, because at the end of the day, when you're talking of a mentorship driven program like Startup Bridge Canada, I guess unless and until you get access to really good quality people who are going to be uh, not holding back in giving you the kind of knowledge that they possess and understanding that they have the market, which will help you ease into the market, it is very difficult to kind of just run a program as it is. So these are the people who are the, I would like to say, the engine room of the program. They are the ones who are at the core of everything we do. So very good mix of people that are already on board, and we are continuing to onboard more people over the next few weeks. So these are some of the important dates that you should know. So today, 18th of December, we go live with the program announcement. The website will soon be live in a couple of hours once we are done with this. But having said that, we are also going to have a handful of road shows over the next few weeks when we hit January. The applications stay open until 31st of Jan. So if you have any questions in the interim, feel free to drop in a note, and we'll be more than happy to address the queries that you have. The website itself has a detailed list of FAQs which will address most of your queries. But if not, me, Gaurav, Mitali, Shweta, the team is pretty much here. Like I said, the program is going to be operational from 15th of February to 31st of March. And it's not just these 6 weeks that we are going to be focusing on. Post these 6 weeks, there is going to be a 3-month post program follow up to ensure that whatever discussions or windows that you've opened during those 6 weeks, we help you close those windows and doors over the 3 months that follow after the 6-week program. So that is the kind of support that we're looking at providing companies that enroll into the program. So I spoke about multi-city roadshow. So 12th and 13th Jan, 19th and 20th Jan. That's how we have split the roadshows. East, West, North, South. So 4 regional roadshows. We have a handful of regional partners who are basically incubators, accelerators, and like-minded organizations in India who are going to be helping us with these roadshows. So essentially, the program is your gateway to North America. I'm joined by my colleagues Shweta, who is the co-founder and CEO of Startup Rezo. We have Gaurav Kulkarni and Mitali Bandekar. All three of them are pretty much here with us at this program itself. But their email addresses are here. You would have heard from us as well. So please feel free to drop in a note, and we'll be happy to take those questions. With that, I would like to hand it over back to Gaurav.
Thank you
Gaurav,
so
the
much for
stage is yours.
that, Ajay. All right. Thank you so much. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us or drop those questions in chat box or question box. We'll get back to you in couple of in few hours with answers. All right. Thank you so much. We'll be back with another session. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everyone. So I have with me Neeraj Gupta, who is the Chief Advisor for Technology and Innovation Investment for Invest Alberta Corporation. Hi, Neeraj.
Hi,
Hi. Thank you so much for joining.
my pleasure.
Yeah. So Neeraj, all yours. Please take us
Okay,
to the Alberta and your corporation. Yeah. Thank you.
uh, absolutely. Thanks a lot. I represent Invest Alberta, which is a crown corporation, and that was formed a couple of months back. And one of the mandate of Invest Alberta is to create a sort of corridor between, Alberta and rest of the world. So if you are a startup or investor or ecosystem, and if you're planning to come to North America and primarily Canada as well, we will be will be the kind of platform wherein we could help you with all those kind of soft landing, connecting you to right kind of investors or ecosystem, or help you network, help you understand what are the kind of tax incentives and the other business development opportunities Canada and Alberta offers in particular. So that's what Invest Alberta does. Today I'm going to speak more about the opportunities in Alberta. So I come from India. I've been in India. I have been part of most of the ecosystems which is there today. I've been part of Europe, and coming to Canada, one of the most important aspect, which is very important for most of the startup, is a kind of a favorable ecosystem, which you expect when you're growing. So you may be at the seed stage or Series A stage, and you may have a different kind of a challenges, and you may want to become more global. And I always say that this unfortunate gift of time, which this pandemic has given a sort of a kind of opportunity for startups to go more global, and start looking at what are the opportunity sets. So Alberta, as such, apart from the lowest corporate taxes, also have one of the most budding entrepreneurial ecosystem. So if you look at from the ecosystem incubators and accelerators point of view, there are accelerators and incubators which are like Platform Calgary in Edmonton, Tech Edmonton, and then you have Creative Destruction Labs, Zone, and there are so many other ecosystems and incubators and accelerators. And these ecosystems and incubators and accelerators are really effective. Like if you want to get connected to the people, if you want to get connected to the investors, they provide you all sort of holistic approach towards making you become more successful, if you will. The second part is investors ecosystem. So not sure whether you have seen and following the news, but in last 9 months, one of the very successful startup stories are coming from Alberta. So a company called Benevity got acquired in more than $1 billion valuation, and from by UK investors. There is another company called Cement and Neo Financial in the fintech space. They got massive amount of funding. A company in robotics and AI called Adabotics got massive amount of funding and also the grant. So you in Canada, you will also look at, and particularly in Alberta, you will find a lot of government initiatives that are going to help you. For example, Alberta Innovates. If you look at Alberta Innovates, you know what this corporation does is basically gives you all kind of provisions to help in different segments, be it health, AI, medtech, robotics, 5G, LTE, IoT, whatever segment you are in. You have different kind of opportunities for grants. For example, there's something called micro vouchers. So if you want to, if you're at a very early stage and if you want to look at the IP portfolio or you want to do a market research about your product, you can get a grant from Alberta Innovates. And then further, you can get more grants in terms of development of your product. And believe me or not, these grants do happen and they are very effective grants. And I've seen hundreds of startups growing. I personally have been part of one of the most promising startup in Canada, based out of Calgary called Adabotics as Chief Strategy Officer. And I've seen the kind of help and growth which this company has done. There is a fund called Ontario Teachers Pension Fund that got Series C funding for Adabotics, $67 million. And then there was another a government grant called Strategic Innovation Fund that had given a funding of around $35 million. And that's a grant, non-dilutive grant. So what I'm trying to say is that if you're looking at the kind of a right ecosystem, and Alberta also is among top 3 most livable city in the world, and the proximity, like, before pandemic, I used to one week I will be in a month I will be in San Francisco, and then another week I'll be in Seattle, and then third week I will be in Europe. So the point is, the proximity also is strategically Alberta is stationed in such a way that if you want to go and tap North American market, primarily US market, it's very easy, it's very non-expensive. There are direct flights to Bay Area and other cities across North America. The Other important aspect, which also a lot of startups at your stage, I'm not sure what stage are you in, but if you are at the early stage and pre-series stage, is access to capital as from angel investment point of view. Alberta has one of the very strong angel investment ecosystem. As you might know, that Alberta was very strong on oil and gas, and because of it, there was a lot of financial inclusion that happened, and because of which, in Alberta you will find a lot of high net worth, successful, professionals as well as entrepreneurs who are ready to invest. I am part of something called Valhalla Angel, and Valhalla Angels are one of the most prominent angel network. Then you have in Alberta, there's something called A100, Alberta 100. So Alberta's 100 most influential people, and that's also a fund. There's Startup Calgary, there's Startup Edmonton. If you are a medtech company, there's something called Health City in Edmonton, and that provides all kind of support if you are into medical technologies. If you're looking for a research, AI and machine learning and robotics particularly, Alberta has something called AMI, which is one of the strongest AI ecosystems in the world. It provides all kind of support. It is supported by government. So AI, and if you're into IoT and hardware, there's something called in Alberta IoT, and Alberta IoT is another emerging technology ecosystem. So Alberta has all the right kind of a building blocks, but more importantly, it's not as expensive as other province in Canada, and that becomes one of the very important aspect for a startup, because you need to hire a lot of technology experts. University of Alberta is awesome. If you go to University of Calgary, University of Alberta, you'll find the kind of a research. They want to collaborate with startups. They will be very happy to do a joint project, and probably may also avail a lot of fundings available in Alberta. So my suggestion is, based on my personal experience and based on the experience of a lot of startups, not only which are homegrown within Alberta in Canada, but also outside Canada, which have come to Alberta. My suggestion is definitely explore Alberta. Invest Alberta will be more than happy to help you out. We all will be more than happy to talk to you one-on-one and help you in whatever is possible. So with that, probably I can open the floor for the questions if you have. I'm not sure how much time I have, but I can probably take a couple of questions, Gaurav, if you are
we can,
okay.
we can take one question. Any questions, guys? Yeah, so we have one question here. Nisha.
Yeah, Nishant.
Yeah.
Hi, Neeraj. Great to be part of this event. I just quickly wanted to understand, you mentioned a lot of things. Do you have anything in like battery tech, electric vehicle space in Alberta? Is there something that's happening in that space?
Absolutely. When you talk about battery space, energy, Alberta is very strong on energy, as you already know. But now there is going to be a lot of emphasis on autonomous cars, and because of this entire autonomous cars and AI and electric vehicles, suddenly a lot of impetus have been given to battery tech. So, and already I think 4 startups in battery tech have got a good amount of funding in Alberta, and they are flourishing. So, and if you are trying to also set up a kind of a manufacturing hub and all, there are different provisions when you can get a grant to get the support. That sense.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Neeraj, for this session. Thank you so much. So everyone, will be back with another session. Stay tuned. Hey, hello everyone. So we have with us Chris Begley. He's the acting senior Ontario representative for India and managing Ontario's trade and investment offices in Delhi and Mumbai. Welcome, Chris.
Hi.
Hi.
Pleased to be here.
Yeah. So so we have one video to play. So I'll just play that video, and then Chris will take us through Ontario's overview.
Ontario and India have always shared a strong, fruitful relationship based on a storied history of trade and investment. Our partnership is further solidified by a deep cultural and personal connection that goes far beyond our borders. In fact, Ontario has the largest Indian community in all of Canada. There are nearly 900,000 people of Indian descent living in the province, and in 2019, over 52,000 Indian students studied at Ontario post-secondary institutions. With complementary economies and common goals, there has never been a better time for Ontario and India to collaborate in business. In 2019, two-way trade between Ontario and India totaled $3.4 billion. And there are over 60 Indian companies operating in the province, including ICICI Bank, Wipro, and Tata. Likewise, there are over 100 Ontario companies with a presence in India, such as OpenText, McCain Foods, and Sun Life Financial. In fact, Ontario-based investors have been at the forefront of infrastructure development in India, contributing over $15 billion to projects over the last 3 years. To see for yourself, just look up the province's own Form Glass Products Limited designed the ceiling in the second terminal of Mumbai's Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International Airport. And Ontario-based Brookfield owns the largest privately held road network in India. With partnerships such as NASSCOM and several MOUs currently in effect, Ontario and India will continue to boost innovation, grow our respective economies, and reimagine our shared future.
Great. Over to you, Chris.
Okay, thank you very much again, Gaurav and AJ, for this opportunity and a wonderful program, a wonderful set of speakers. I'm particularly excited to see my former colleague Sunil Sharma doing the Ask Me Anything later, so that'll be quite interesting. And some of the companies who have lived the experience of doing this soft landing, some of them helped by our offices here in India. As Gaurav mentioned, we have 2 offices in India, Mumbai and Delhi, and I believe Ravi Tiwari from our Mumbai office is in the audience today. So we have 4 people, soon to be 5, on the ground in India to help you after this. And I really think this highlights the importance that Ontario puts on the relationship with India. You know, that video was produced because our Minister Victor Fedeli, the Minister of Economic Development, just finished a virtual mission to India. This is his second trip to India in the last year. He sees it, we see it as a government, we see it for economic development as one of our key partners. And while he was here, he met with companies. You saw Tata Consulting, big companies. Smaller companies are making their first international investment and chose Ontario. And companies that not so long ago were startups like yours and now are much bigger and are looking at Ontario as a place to further their growth. And that's really what our government sees. We see great opportunity because of our shared economies. We share an entrepreneurial spirit, and I see 74 people in the room here. And that's a great example of this spirit. And we want you to think now, when you're looking at the North American market, where you can go to get your first launching pad into North America. And we think Ontario has a great case as a great example of a spot where you can launch into North America much more affordably than you go to Silicon Valley or New York or Boston as the first stop, easily connected to India, easily connected throughout North America from Toronto or Ottawa. And really, we have the 3rd largest tech cluster in North America, but the fastest growing tech cluster. Created more jobs in Silicon Valley, more jobs in Seattle, more jobs in Boston and New York last year in tech. We have a great pipeline of talent, both through immigration and through the fact that we have the 3rd most STEM graduates per year in Ontario. So there's a constant flow of science students, engineering students, math students to help your company grow. And we have a friendly, supportive business climate with incubators, accelerators, half the VC in Canada is in Ontario, half the angel capital in Canada is in Ontario, and the major LPs to fund that VC are in Ontario, the banks, the insurers, the pension funds. So there's an all-around great climate to grow a business in Ontario. And really what I want to say is we put our money where our mouth is. And one example of this was last month, the government announced a special fund working with the Toronto Business Development Centre, who are one of the partners of Startup Bridge, to assist Indian companies, specifically Indian startups, to come into Ontario and grow their North American business from Ontario. So that's one way where we, as a government, are saying that we want you to come, and we're proving that we want you to come. The other way is Canada-wide with the startup visa. So we want to make it as easy as possible for Indian entrepreneurs to enter Canada. So this way, if you've got a company idea you want to grow in Canada, in Ontario, you partner with an incubator, a VC, or an angel investor. They validate your business idea. And once they've done that, Sunil Sharma's Techstars is one of those accredited organizations. Toronto Business Development Centre is another one of the accredited organizations. Once they've done that, you then become eligible for a visa. There's other steps, of course, but it makes it very simple compared to, say, an H-1B visa in the United States. We try and make it easy. We try and help you because we think that your company will help us grow. It'll help India grow if you're in Ontario, if you start your North American expansion from Ontario, and we want to work with you as partners. So feel free to reach out to me afterwards, to Ravi Tiwari, who's in the audience, or to our offices in India if you want more information about why Ontario is the right place to grow your business. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for this overview. So any question for Chris? We can take one or two questions. Okay. Sorry. So I was saying you can raise your hand and come on stage and ask question directly, or you can drop your question in question box.
No, I guess I said everything.
Yeah, they understood everything, right? Perfect. Okay, so we have one raised hand. Let me just. So we have Deepak Singh here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Deepak.
Yeah, hi. I am actually looking. I have a startup, and we are working on basically robotics and drones, and we are looking for a market in international, that is Canada, and obviously do business in most of the American markets. So we come up with a very unique idea of medical humanoid that we are planning to launch in basically with a target segment of B2B hospitals. And then it is also connected with some drones. So how do you suggest that we incubate with your place, and at the same time, what are the steps involved in going forward?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last word. The steps involved in
Going forward. Suppose if you're interested in taking the incubation at your place.
Well, I think one of the steps is submitting your application to Startup Bridge, because it seems like a very good pathway forward as one. But if that's other alternatives are looking at the startup visa and seeing what the accredited organizations are, talking to our offices in India, and they'll be able to guide you. We don't have time to go over it all here, but if you set up a call, connect with me on LinkedIn. It's great. We can then talk to you afterwards and give you some detailed advice. But like I said, one step I'd recommend after seeing AJ's presentation is that you apply to Startup Bridge.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, that's it. So thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, please feel free to email us those questions. We can reach out. We'll reach out to Chris and get back to you. Right? Thank you so much, guys. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in again. So we have Lloyd Lobo here, all the way from San Francisco. And good morning, Lloyd. How are you
Hey,
doing?
good morning. Hold on, let me switch off the light. It's a little too good morning. It's like 5:30 in the morning here, but excited to be here, of course. And a very good friend of mine, Sunil Sharma, is also speaking later. So excited to hear him.
Perfect.
Awesome. So I don't have slides or anything, but I'm just going to talk through my journey on why Canada and the benefits. Does that work, Gaurav?
Sure. Perfect. Perfect. All right.
Awesome. So my background is I'm a couple of times entrepreneur and been working in the startup space for a very long time. My parents are Indian. I've spent some time in India, but I grew up in Kuwait, in the Middle East, and then after the Gulf War in the 90s, made my way to Canada and studied engineering in Canada, software engineering, and then moved to the US, worked in product and growth for a number of tech startups. Did a couple of failures along the way in there. One was a chatbot AI for customer service we built in 2013-14, which had failed. We had deployed that on Zendesk. Then I did a company. I was on the founding team of a company that was venture funded by Salesforce, Bessemer. It was incubated by the investors. And that also failed after raising a $6 million seed round. Currently, I'm co-founder president at Boast AI, and what we do is we automate R&D tax credits for US, Canadian, and global companies. We just raised a 23 million USD Series A to scale to the next level. I want to share my experience building a company in Canada. Although I live in San Francisco, Indian background, and my last company, the whole team was in San Francisco. Unlike that, Boast, we've got about 35 people in Canada and growing to almost 80, 90 in the next 12 months. This is our first round of funding. The 23 million USD, we bootstrapped the company until we raised the money. And it's been a great journey. We've been doubling our growth year over year and whatnot. So I can share sort of my journey building a company and failing in San Francisco, and then building a company that's got this far and successful in Canada. So one of the key things is when the US and San Francisco is very good from a business development or like fundraising perspective. But what happens is employees don't stick around. It's super expensive, and it's a rat race to get talent, right? So like employees that I've found working here typically are, what is the opportunity cost of my stock options? If in 2 years you don't raise another funding round at a higher valuation, they'll jump around. So it's very hard to retain talent here. Very expensive, and it's hard to even find them, right? In Canada, because it's a socialist country and there are all these other benefits, people don't just care about money and equity. They care about other things. They care about a balanced view of life. And our average employee has stuck around 5 years at Boast. So that's number one, is like the quality of life and the work-life balance is phenomenal in Canada, which helps you retain and attract employees. Now, although I live in Silicon Valley and I work for a lot of tech startups here, I don't believe in this work 80, 100 hours a week. People burn out, right? If you create an environment for people to grow and be a metrics-driven organization versus an optics-driven organization, people will perform. I mean, we've been doubling growth year over year, and they'll be less stressed and they'll not be burnt out and they'll stick around. Great support system. So one of the big reasons I was able to bootstrap is like we have a Canadian controlled entity. My co-founder CEO is also Canadian. The bulk of our team is Canadian. We were able to attract a lot of government funding. So IRAP, Industrial Research Assistance Program, gave us $500,000 last year, helped us hire more developers, and have been instrumental to our growth, right? You can bootstrap longer in Canada because of government incentives. So IRAP is one. Shred, which is the program we automate, R&D tax credits, where if you're developing new technology or improving existing technology and you're a Canadian-controlled private corporation, between federal, provincial, and the proxy incentives, it can be as much as 63% in Ontario and 70% cash back, right? Now compare that with the US. The US government federal R&D credit is 10%, and it's non-refundable. It offsets payroll taxes or income taxes, and most states are non-refundable anyway, so you need to be profitable. In Canada, you don't need to be profitable. The R&D credits can be as much as 63 to 70%, and you get a cash back. So huge injection there. Then I talked about programs like Industrial Research Assistance Program. That program gives you 80% of salaries and 50% of contractors in Canada, provided they approve a project. It needs to be an innovative project that creates economic growth in Canada. Then access to all these accelerators and incubators like Techstars, like Founder Institute, like Launch Academy, makes it really, really fruitful for you to come to Canada, because you can then apply for a startup visa, and you and your co-founders and your spouses can come to Canada in a matter of months, right? And apart from that, let's say you have your team in India or wherever, or you want to attract international talent, then there's the global skills visa where you can bring people into Canada, and that within a matter of 2 months, they can come on a work permit, their spouse can get a work permit, and within a matter of a year, they can get permanent residence. In fact, in the last week, we leveraged Global Skills Visa to hire 2 people from India using VanHack. And VanHack is a Techstars startup that is connecting foreign talent with Canadian companies. Then access to all the university ecosystems and the research facilities. Like right now, I'm talking to Mila and Fado and Alberta ML and AI. So there's a lot of research institutions that can help connect you to talent. So overall, if I had to compare, I think if I try to get to 8 figures in revenue in San Francisco, and I'll give you the exact stat, the average company that gets to 8 figures in revenue in San Francisco has at least 10 million in funding and 70, 80 people. We got to 8 figures in revenue with no outside funding and 35 people. Now it's our first round of funding. We raised 23 million USD or 30 million Canadian. We raised it on our terms. We didn't have to do the song and dance and chase, and we're going to deploy it into doubling, tripling the team in Canada in the next 12 months, only because we've seen the level of support and commitment from the government associations, from the community organizations, and so on. And it's been great. And a lot of my friends from Silicon Valley have been approaching me saying, "How did you do it? Like, can we set up an office?" And look at it right now, right? So I just saw this tweet by a very popular VC, Jason Lemkin, and also a friend and a mentor to me. And he said, right now, the best places to go to build a company are kind of like outside San Francisco. Come here for like, if you're fundraising or if you want to do business development. I mean, the network is great here, but everyone's moving. A lot of folks are moving to Austin, for example. But at the end of the day, Canada gives you that sort of holistic or balanced life as an entrepreneur, right? So you get access to talent. Talent is easier to retain. There's government funding, and there's a lot of support. So I'll give you an example. Right now, we have offices in, yes, San Francisco, but Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary. We're looking to expand to Montreal. I got connected with Montreal International. They made like half a dozen intros to everybody in the ecosystem, and now I'm on my way to finding good talent there, setting up an office there, and lots of partnerships. So overall, I think, if you had to walk away with one summary, it's like, I'm giving you my example as a founder. A funded company, $6 million, tanked it, 6 million seed. Average company that I talk to that gets to 8 figures in revenue in the US has about 70, 80 people and 10 million in funding. In Canada, I was able to bootstrap to 8 figures with 35 people and raised our first round of funding, 30 million Canadian, with on our own terms. So that's the quick summary. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up.
Okay, so we have a question here. Deepak.
Hi, Lobo. Can you?
Hi, Deepak.
Hi. First of all, congratulations for your achievement, and you mentioned that two startups which you started, you failed, despite of the fundings and everything. So I was just wondering, like, since there's a lot of opportunity in North America, especially uh, especially into the and government supporting the startup ecosystem. So what are those few reasons why did you fail? If you can share those experience.
Definitely, right? So there's a couple of things. The mindset here, as soon as you raise money, is like go, 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 go fast. I think one of the most important things is preserving capital and being able to do things in a lean way. Getting money doesn't mean you're going to be successful. You need to figure a way to do things in a lean, efficient manner, and it's very tough to do that in Silicon Valley, right? It's much easier to do that in Canada. Uh, the the first milestone when you start a company is to get the company to product market fit, right? And if you try to throw gas on the fire before before there's a fire, if you try to throw gas before there's a spark, it's just going to be a bunch of wet logs, right? So I think the most important thing is how do I get to product market fit? And you got to spend a significant amount of time and energy and money in the Bay Area, in Silicon Valley, to get to that product market fit. That's why you need to raise rounds of funding. And as an entrepreneur, your focus should be on running and building and growing your business. Fundraising is like a full-time job. So it's like, okay, I need to get to product market fit. Now I got to chase money to build this. Then I got to chase customers. Then I got to chase my developers. If you minimize your effort and focus, I think that is the key thing. And I think a big part of it is cost, right? Like the amount of time it takes to get to product market fit, time and money, is significant in San Francisco versus in Canada.
Okay, I have another quick question. Since you mentioned about the lean way to start the startup, so I think you're talking about the lean startup where the co-founders do a kind of a research way. So I was just that again brings a quick question. Since you already into 8 figures of revenue and with the 35 people, so till what time the lean the startups happened, and at the same time when you obviously when you raise funds you go for the group and everything. So I'm just wondering about those the time cycle.
Yeah, can you guys hear me still?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I think it's funny. I stretched the lean too far, right? At the end of the day, so I stretched the lean too far, and now I'm like actually suffering, right? So when I say say that, meaning we grew too quick. My motto in life is barter, beg, and then pay. So we've taken a lean approach to everything we've done. Can you guys can still hear me, right? Can you guys hear me? Hello? Yeah. So
Yeah, we can hear you.
I would say, yeah,
Yeah,
I
we can
would
hear
say
you.
be lean.
Okay.
I would say be lean, as you know, when I say be lean, meaning spend as little as possible to get the maximum outcome. Do things by yourself, stretch every dollar, do more with less. Don't invest in frivolous things like, oh, don't chase shiny objects. Like, I'm gonna go and spend money on ads, and then I'm gonna spend money on like something, like events and 10 other things. The most important thing to
Right.
get to product market fit and raise money is to figure out one type of customer getting one type of value over and over again and coming through one type of channel. I think that is the key thing. Like, it's like, okay, my customer is the CEO of a technology company, and I am getting that person by just doing cold calls, and they are getting one type of value over and over and over again. Like, figure out one or two channels, they come You acquire them through one or two channels. They're getting one type of value, and it's one type of customer profile over and over again. That's how you build a repeatable, scalable engine. Because as a small, lean team, you can't have a dozen focuses. And then once you do that, and you have one kind of customer getting value and happy and sticking around and keep coming back over and over again, then you get the product market fit, and then you can go and raise money to scale that effort. So that process can take, like, in the case of Superhuman, I don't know if you've heard of them. They're doing extremely well. Superhuman's case, it took like 4 years to get to product market fit, maybe. Or you can take 1 year to get product market fit. Depends on the complexity of your product and the industry you're targeting. And that's why being lean is important. Building a good business takes a long time. It's not like a gratification.
So, right. So we have Ajay here. He has a question. Hi, Ajay.
Hey, Lloyd. Hey, thanks, Gaurav. Lloyd, firstly, thank you for tuning in so early in the morning and taking this request fairly last minute. So I have a question for you. If you can quickly help us and the audience understand a little bit more about the work that Host does, and probably delving a little bit into how much money are you helping startups claim back with your software in terms of R&D tax credits? You're helping
Yeah,
a ton of them.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that question. So, to step back a little bit, like globally, over 200 billion is given in R&D incentives by government to fund businesses. But the application process is time consuming. It's cumbersome. You have to incur a year's worth of R&D to then apply for it and then wait for government processing times, which all, the Indian community is much familiar with how long the government takes. And then you get the money. So it can take you 12 to 16 months to get back money from the R&D. And we automate and streamline that process. And we've helped companies get over 200 million over the last several years in R&D credits to fund their business. And now we're launching a big fund because we built the ability to underwrite the R&D credits. So we're saying that if you plug your tech stack and financial stack into Boast, you don't have to wait to finish your tax year and file it with the government and wait for processing times. We'll give you the money as you go through the year.
Nice. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking that question.
Awesome. Thanks. I can't hear. He's Gaurav, you're on mute.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Kaizad here is asking, would you consider any angel investment opportunities in Indian tech startups?
Yeah, definitely. Hit me up on my LinkedIn. I syndicate with a small network of angels here. So happy to take a look at it for sure. And my friend Sunil Sharma here also invests through Techstars. I don't know if he's on or not.
All right. So we'll take one final question and we'll move on. All right. So we have a question from Nishan.
Hey, hi, Lloyd. Once again, great to kind of see you so early in the morning. Thanks for doing that for us. So I'm curious. We're like a hardware startup based out of Bombay, and I'm wondering if you help
Nishan,
get tax credit back from Indian government as well.
No, we currently don't do that. But your photograph actually reminds me of the Amitabh Bachchan song where he comes out of the water.
So
Yes, exactly. So currently we're not in India, but the dealing with governments is a hard thing. I think between US and Canada, we have our hands full, but we'll keep that in mind for sure.
Sure. Well, another question. I have a quick one. We are into electric vehicle space. Is there action happening in Canada around that? And if
Yeah,
so,
definitely. So hit me up. Send me a note. You can get my email from Gaurav, or just hit me up on LinkedIn. Actually, I was just speaking with a Silicon Valley startup in that space, and they're they're expanding their manufacturing facility to Canada. So yeah, there's opportunity if you bring innovation to Canada, and Canada will only give to you if you're going to grow their economy.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you so much, Lloyd. Thank you so much for your time. And we'll be back with next session. It's an interesting session, panel discussion with 3 founders. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Thank you so much for joining.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. and we are back, and we have three founders here who are Indian and who have settled down in Canada, right? And we have Shweta Tiwari, who's the CEO and co-founder of Startup Rezo. Hi, welcome.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for that.
And Shweta will be moderating this panel. And over to you, Shweta.
Thank you, Gaurav. Good evening, everyone, and good morning for people joining in from Canada. Thank you for joining us. A very warm welcome to my co-panelist here, Kanchan Kumar, who's the co-founder and CEO at Remitter, Vartika Manaswi, who's the founder and CEO at Stackcraft, and Saubhagya Sahu, who's the CEO and co-founder at Grey Routes. So, welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm just going to
Thank you, Shweta.
Yeah. So before we move on to the panel discussion, like Ajay mentioned during the start of the session, going global is no longer a choice or an option. In fact, every day we see technology companies expanding into international markets, and Indian technology startups are increasingly building products with a global mindset versus earlier, right? And owning to the virtual environment or the virtual way of conducting businesses today in the pandemic, it's a significant opportunity for technology startups based anywhere, not just in India. However, as we all understand, setting up a company in a new country comes with its own set of challenges. And today, our discussion is going to be focused on learning from these founders. How do you overcome those challenges, or what is the support system which is available for you to leverage while you are looking at setting up your base in Canada? So once again, welcome to everyone and my co-panelist. I would now request each one of you to give us a brief introduction about yourself and your company. Maybe Saubhagya, since I see you first on my left hand side, we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Shweta. So I'm Saubhagya. I am the CEO and co-founder of Grey Roots. We started almost 7 years ago in Mumbai. And since then, we've been working with multiple Fortune 500 companies, working on their supply chain digitization efforts. So we have a suite of mobile applications that allow companies to digitize their critical last mile processes, including in sales, marketing, and logistics. And our journey in Canada started 4 years ago, 3 years ago, in 2017, with DMZ's The Next Big Idea, 2017. So that got us to Canada on a 2-week market access program. And then from then on, we got a network of mentors, advisors. I happened to meet Kanchan as well on that trip, who was at DMZ. And so it got us invigorated about the opportunities here. And we also had been getting a lot of leads from North America, but not able to service those because of the huge time zone difference. So 2017 is when it started. Then 2019 is when we arrived here, did a lot of market research. I took part in the Creative Destruction Lab at Montreal that focuses on supply chain. Again, got a good network of backers, and then we created the company, and our journey started, and it's been more than a year now.
Interesting. Over to you, Vartika.
Okay, thanks, Shweta. Hi, everyone. My name is Vartika. I'm the founder of Stackcraft. So, Stackcraft is a SaaS-enabled marketplace for hiring engineers based on data rather than random resumes and interviews. So we use audio and video as a technology to automate interviews, and that's how companies can hire and click a few buttons. So it's a community of around 7,000 curated engineers, 25,000 overall engineers from around the world. My journey in Canada started 2 years back, and I'm a second-time founder. My interest is mostly consumer social. I just took a flight, and I just arrived in 2018, and I wanted to figure out what's going on. So rather than going to Silicon Valley, I decided, okay, let me just go to the neighbors and see what's going on and see if I can build a company there. And the product that I was building that time was called BFF, which was a social networking app, and I was trying to validate the market. And we found a first customer, and that's really Stackcraft happened. And I discovered this whole market opportunity to build a big business out of Canada. And when we found our first customer, overnight I incorporated the company. I was just a tourist, by the way, there. I had no visa, no family, no connections, nothing. I was in Toronto at that time. And we incorporated the company and things started. Now I have to figure out how to come here in a legit way and do business and be in this market. So 2019 is when I got my startup visa from Alberta, and my co-founder and I, we moved here full-fledged. So now we do a lot of business with companies in the US and in Canada. We have big clients like Paytm Labs in Canada, Amazon, RBC. So it all happened over a period of past 1 year.
Wow, that's interesting.
Thank you.
Over to you, Kanchan.
Yes, hi, my name is Kanchan Kumar. I'm co-founder and CEO of Rebitor. We are a cross-border payments company focused on ensuring small businesses have access to global markets. What we started off in Canada in 2016, and that was after having done multiple iterations and multiple products, multiple experiments in India and Dubai. After having worked in these markets, we figured that we needed a place which provides us a stable as well as startup-friendly regulation, because we are a heavily regulated industry. We are regulated almost like a bank. And Canada happened to be the place which would do that. And it was a winter morning in minus 40 degrees Celsius when I landed here with no friend, no family, but thankful to Ajay for an introduction to Alan and Matt at Drive and Futures in those days. And they said, "Hey, we got a place downtown. Why don't you come and sit and work from here?" So that's how my journey started off. Of course, for us, it's been really very well. We have grown our team. We are spread across multiple countries now. We have team in US and Canada. All the customer-facing teams in US, Canada, our engineering and operations continue to be in Mumbai. We today process hundreds of millions of dollars of payments for thousands of small businesses in North America.
Interesting.
And yes, and we started off by coming in on a visitor visa, incorporating the company, going back, coming back in. We just wanted to ensure that the company is viable, this place is viable before we actually apply for a startup visa. I'm here on a startup visa now. And along with my co-founder and a lot of other team.
Interesting. So all three of you went for a Reiki first.
Yes. No, I didn't come for a Reiki. I was very sure we are going to set it up here, just that I didn't want to get into the entire startup visa process and permanent residency and all of that till the time we figured that the market and the takes the product that you're building.
So Kanchan, on that note, when was the time when you decided that okay, Canada is the geography where you want to go, and when did you decide that? When did that thought come? And just to add to that question, or just to extend there, how easy or difficult was the startup visa program process, and which you went through?
So for us, it was not very difficult. For the startup visa program itself, it was early days. When we applied for startup visa, it was still an experimental mode. It was not a permanent program that it is now. So it was certainly fairly easy. I believe their timelines have gone up now because a lot of more people are applying for it. Not in our case. However, the decision for us to take a startup visa took more than a year because it took us getting regulated, getting the platform built, certified, bank partnership, building all the products. So we waited for almost 1.5 years while doing shuttling in and out to ensure that we build product, we take it to the market, and we have customers to say, yeah, I think we need this. Can I also get my friend to sign up? And that's when we figured that I think we have a business to run here, and now I think we should take a startup visa and run on this.
Interesting. And Vartika, in your case, with your experience, and it's not just with you, but with others also that you keep supporting in terms of or guiding in terms of startup visa program, can you share your experience and for our audience to understand the process and how easy or difficult it is today?
So when I came to Canada, I didn't know about the startup visa program, honestly, and I just came here to do the market validation because, once failed, I was very sure that I want to be in the right market because my products were failing because the market was not right. And so I want to be very sure that this is the market that I want to be in and be myself. I have no fascination in being in a foreign country. So now, when I started finding customers and started showing results, so I was on a visitor visa and I had to incorporate my company in the US because now have to take payments and whatnot. And now I didn't even know if I could do business in Canada because, it's not easy to figure out all the incorporation laws and this and that in a matter of few times. And I started getting traction. I started seeing that people want this kind of a product. And so I incorporated the company via Stripe Atlas in Delaware in the US. And in 24 hours, we took the payments and the ball started rolling. My first customer paid us $5,000 and it literally covered all the cost in 2018. And then I was like, okay, now we have to figure how to come here in a legit way. I wrote IELTS exam and that was like an English test. I'm like, okay, now I have to prove that I am worth and I'm speaking good English and do this whole PR process. It's just not my kind of a thing. I rather focus on building a business. And then I figured the 30 organizations that are giving startup visa and what goes into it. It's just like raising funds. I started applying to those 30 organizations. And because we had traction, we had proven our worth to being in the land, to be in Canada, to grow the economy. And that is what I showed to all of these partners. I got my startup visa accepted by 3 provinces. And we selected Alberta, and Platform Calgary was a platform of choice. And 2019 is when February we landed in Calgary. And so that's how it really happened. Because we started finding customers and we had clients in California, in the US, we started seeing, okay, now it's just a matter of being in the right time zone and grow the company, get more and more clients. So that was the fundamental reason, that helped us decide, okay, we have to be in this market.
That's good to know. Saubhagya, coming to you, I know in your case it was a little different. You went through a program first and then understood the market, got connected to the stakeholders. But when did you decide, before the program, after the program, that Canada is the country that you want to relocate or you want to set up a base? And my follow-on question for our audience would be to understand, was it hiring first that you did, or first you got a customer on board, got some assurance that, okay, there is some business opportunity here, and then you started hiring people? So what was your journey like?
Yeah, sure. So in our case, since 2017, we were very observant of where our web traffic and most of the leads are coming from. So that is when we realized that almost 40% of our leads were actually coming from North America, and they were largely going unserviced. And that is what led us to explore both US as well as Canada. So for Canada, we took part in the Next Big Idea contest. And just 2 months after that, there was Uber Exchange that took us to the Silicon Valley ecosystem as well. So those 2 months were like our global accelerator of sorts that gave us a crystal clear picture of how the ecosystem is, how inviting it is, what are the prospects. And so that is what got us here. We spent our time here working on customer research. We connected with a consultant, a retail consultant on that trip, David Gray, based out of Vancouver, who was very critical for us in understanding the acceptability of what we provide. So if you're talking about providing real-time demand sensing for businesses, what is the kind of understanding or what is the kind of innovation requirement for companies here? And my sense was that Canada is a hotbed for pilot testing. I mean, the market loves innovation. The market loves deep technology. And there is a high amount of acceptability, especially if you go through the CXO route through a consultant. And we realized that those avenues were available in Canada. They might not be so available in, let's say, India or US. And that got us inclined towards Canada because it's largely a referral or a trust-based sales ecosystem out here. So that is what got us interested. Contrary to Kanchan and Vartika, we are not on the startup visa, so we are still early days for us. we run a work permit, intra-company work permit, and we're going through the PR process right now. Still taking baby steps and trying to create a thriving ecosystem. But we got our customers last year. So we got Raytheon Technologies. They're a Fortune 50 player in the aerospace space. They're a large innovation consumer. So they're on board. We've got Coca-Cola. They were among the first customers, and like Vartika's payment, so they allowed us to cover all the startup costs. We did incorporate through lawyers. We did take lawyers for work permit aspects as well. And I believe they helped us out because given the timelines we were in, it was actually pretty busy last year. So we were trying to sort out how to crack CDL as a program, how to impress the mentors, how to impress the customers, how to get the first hires. And I believe good legal advice is critical. Good mentorship is advisable when you're trying to sort out 5, 6 different things at the same time as a founder.
And the best thing was everything was funded by the customer, or the
Yes.
initial route was funded by the customer in both your.
Yes.
That's
Yes. We also had to put in the founder equity as well. I mean, that's essential, right? I mean, when you're looking to create a business, you obviously have to invest in the beginning. I just allocate at least 2 years of initial investment, and then the fruits will start coming in.
Yeah. Interesting. So, Kanchan, coming back to you, I know you did touch upon how, so Remitter being in the BFSI space, which is a heavily regulated space, and every country's regulations are massively different. So, what what are the best ways to get familiar with these regulations when someone is looking at Canada as a geography? And what's the business environment look like?
Few things that I think to be kept in mind, and I think Vartika touched about this earlier as well. Knowing the market and the dynamics of the market is extremely important. When you are in a regulated space, it is even more important. And the way to do that is two things. One, get the best talent and advice that you can get in the market. So we hired the best payment lawyer that we could. We had to hustle to get her attention. Jackie Sheenfield, she's a payment lawyer at Blake's, one of the best minds in payments. We hired her to give us advice. At the same point in time, we were low on cash, which basically meant that we had to study every line of regulation ourselves to understand and familiarize and go to her with questions and not to give it to us on a platter. If you're a large corporate, you can afford to hire a lawyer which will create an entire program for you on a platter. You pay $1 million and everything is up and running. We can't afford that, right? So you got to headlong into it, understand the whole thing yourself, and then use the advice that you get from your lawyer or mentor, or in our case, it was a lawyer, or consultant, to understand and help answer questions. That was critical for us. The second thing which matters a lot in any new market is understanding the customer behavior. Now, coming from India, you understand the payment systems of India. You understand what UPI means, what NEFT means. Do you think someone from Canada would come to India and understand what UPI means and what NEFT means? No. Now, how do you expect that someone coming from outside the country would understand what EFT means, what e-transfers mean, how the banking system works, what the cutoff times are, and because those are opportunities, right? So unless we understand what are the pain points that a customer faces, so understanding the customer behavior. So while we were building the compliance and the banking and the infrastructure piece, I spent a lot of time speaking to our potential customers, or just about everyone, to understand what the payment landscape looked like, what the banking looked like, what were the challenges people were facing, and what they would expect differently. That was extremely important for us.
And having that, so as a founder, you need to do. Gaurav, I know you are here. I'm on to my last question. So having so being a founder yourself, it is very much important not to, unless you have a lot of money in your bank account, or you go through the process on your own. So coming to my last question to all three of you, And this is the best part of the learning that I feel the audience would gain from today's session. What were the challenges that all three of you individually faced in the first 100 days of moving to Canada, and how did you overcome those challenges? What was the ecosystem around that you leveraged to overcome those challenges? So,
I
any
can go
you
first.
can go first.
Yeah, I can go first.
Sure.
Yeah, getting to learn how to cope with cold was one. Okay. No, in real sense, I think for us, I touched upon it briefly earlier. The biggest thing was talking to customers and getting their trust. When you get someone to handle money or give you money to handle, pass it on to someone else, be it the suppliers or employees, their business depends on this. They cannot take a chance. They would suffer a bad service, bad product, but they would not let that come in the way of business. So for us, understanding what would get us customers' trust was extremely important in first 100 days, because that is what meant that even if I build the product and the best product, whether someone would give me business or not, and that is something which differs from for every business, and that's I think the key that one needs to understand.
Yeah.
I'll I'll raise another point. So when we arrived on our initial market research so this was late May, uh, uh, experiencing the summer vacations, that was strange for us because practically until September we got no action from the business side. It was just too difficult to get a response or follow up because you would get standard out of office replies for the 2 months. So that's a bit counterintuitive compared to India when it is business through the year. So here you have to plan in advance. If you plan well in advance, then it's not an issue.
Yeah. So
Key.
in my case, I would agree with Kanjan. It's a lot about trust and connecting your network bridge and meeting the right people at the right time. So from a Canadian market standpoint, I think the biggest thing is having patience and believing in your own product. Like these are typical entrepreneurship one-on-one stuff, right? Every market is very same. It's about the customers and having the right patience and delivering value. Once you're delivering value, people will come to you. So so that was the biggest challenge. I come from Delhi, so cold was not really a challenge for me. I was easily able to cope up with it. And yeah, in my case, it was a
Minus.
team.
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, I was just saying, in my case, it was a super small team. I had to figure every single thing all by myself, like single handedly. And we are still a very, very small team, very product focused company. We're not scaling until we get the right network effects and product market fit. So we are still small that way, but yeah, we're doing good business across US and Canada.
That's good to know. Let's open up for some questions from the audience. Gaurav, can we take a couple of questions?
Yeah, we can take one question.
Okay, I don't see any question here.
Yeah. Any questions? You can raise your hand and or you can drop your question in question box. Okay, so there is one. All right.
Okay. No, I don't see any question.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Swarnima. Greetings to you all. I am working with Perfios currently. So we are a well-established company here in India, and we are very eager to expand our services into the Canadian market. So, what are the top 3 or 4 things that you can help us with, which we should first look into, and then choose to decide what kind of route we want to follow? So anything on those lines will help.
Anyone who wants to take it?
I could take that. I think what is most important is to understand the market gap where your existing product fits, because you're a established company, which means your products have maturity, which as a startup it's very different because you could just mold the product to what the market needs. But as a company which already has mature products, it's a little harder. Not that it's not possible, but I guess what will be key would be to understand how, and I'm assuming you would have more than one product, then how each of these products or one of these products fit into the market gap which is there. Number one. Number two, I think figuring.
Kanchan, we lost you. We can't hear you. No, we can hear you.
Okay.
So I can try to just add a point to Nima's question while Kanchan figures out. So I think it's essential to understand the sales methodology is a bit different compared to India. So India, given the plethora of competitive offerings, sometimes it just boils down to the list of features and the price point at which you sell your products. But in Canada, given that the number of competitors might not be that much because you are in a tightly knit neighborhood of a few other alternative offerings, it's important to understand the value, the quantified value that you're offering to the clients, and then be in a position to, let's say, charge a percentage of it or mold your pricing in a way that is directly related to the value delivered. That is very different compared to how you sell in India. So that is essential. Keep that in mind when you're selling. Don't just go with the same standard sales deck when you're pitching to a Canadian customer. They might not be familiar with that kind of selling.
Sure. I'll take one more question. Is it advised to not go for startup visa until you figure out your product market fit? Maybe Vartika,
I'm
Saubhagya?
actually I'm actually an example of that. So I haven't applied for startup PR visa
So
yet, but
I
we're
would
going through
say,
the process.
yeah, I mean, just to add to that, see, product market fit is the function of doing a lot of experiments. So it's about the market also. So maybe if you haven't found the product market fit, in my case, India was not the market. And that was the reason why I was failing. The market was failing me. So if you feel so strongly about your idea, you can still test your market in this, in this geography, and maybe you get your product
The
market fit,
question
get
is,
on it.
Vartika, the question is, should you find product market fit in Canada first before you apply for the startup visa program?
See, product market fit takes time. You never know when you're going to get it, right? So I think there are a few things that can even work in parallel. So you can still apply for your startup visa. To apply for startup visa, the biggest thing is not product market fit. It is about, are you bringing value to the Canadian economy? Are you going to create jobs here? Are you help the customers and grow the Canadian economy? That is the decision making for startup visa. Product market fit, it's your own business, so you have to decide it accordingly.
Sure. I do have a couple of more questions, but sorry, audience, because we are running short on time, we will address these questions separately on email to you. Since we have your details here, we will reach out to you separately. So, to all my three panelists, co-panelists, sorry, any last summarizing or words of wisdom for our fellow entrepreneurs here on moving to Canada, either in couple of words or in a sentence, if you can summarize.
I would just say
Sure.
Silicon Valley is a bit overrated. If you really want to build a global company, move north, come to Canada. Silicon Valley is very overrated.
Yeah, I'd like to just add that the two values which are very different in Canada compared to the rest of the world are honesty and integrity when you're pitching to customers. So keep it honest, keep it straightforward, and this is the true north. Whereas, I mean, especially if you're in AI, deep technology, this is the place to be.
Sure. Kanchan, any luck? Can we hear you? No, we can't hear you.
All right. Okay. So I see more questions here, but hold on, guys. be ready with your questions because we are coming back with Sunil Sharma for Ask Me Anything, right? So be ready with your questions. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kanchan. Thank you, Vartika. Thank you, Saubhagya.
Thank you, Shweta.
Hey, hello, everyone. We are back, and we are back with the session you're waiting for. So we are here with Sunil Sharma and Ajay Ramasubramaniam. Hello, guys. Over to you.
Thanks, Gaurav. Hey, thanks everyone. It's a couple of hours sitting in front of your screens on a Friday evening, so I know that it can be a bit taxing. It's early morning for Sunil, and thank you for accepting the request to come and do this AMA with us. Before we get on to that, I would like Sunil to briefly talk about what he's doing with Techstars and the opportunity for Indian startups to apply into it. So, Sunil, over to you.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Ajay. So, yeah, my main job. I do a few things, but my main job is I'm the managing director for Techstars in Toronto. And Techstars, I think many of you know, a highly global technology accelerator venture capital fund. Right now, 45 running actively around the world, including one in Bangalore. But I look after Toronto and brought Techstars to Canada a little over 3.5 years ago. At the time, I was running a venture capital fund as a partner, a fund called Extreme Venture Partners, making early stage investments. And leading into Extreme, I'll tell you a little bit about Backstory just because it's kind of contextual, and I heard a little of the last panel. I started a tech accelerator of my own called Extreme Startups with some Canadian VC funds, kind of modeled after what I saw in Silicon Valley and in California, where I had just been living. And so it was called Extreme Startups. It's still running today, called Highline. And I had been living in California for 4.5 years, but in a different role. I was a diplomat. So I was Canada's consul general, head of consulate in one of the 3 consulates we have in California. And, in the process of meeting all sorts of CEOs and innovation leaders, I started to sense a few things that were very strong in the ecosystem in the US, but also a few things lacking that we could maybe capitalize on in Canada. So that led me to move back to Canada, try to reinvent my own life, and started a small venture capital fund. And since then, I've been very actively investing, probably more than 150 startup investments in total to date. So I started late, but I think I'm catching up. And Techstars Toronto is my core focus. And our applications actually close on Sunday midnight, December 20th. So if you are interested, and I don't really know everyone who's on this call, but if you are a dynamic tech startup, we want to meet you. And if you're interested, we can talk about Techstars and how we work with our $120,000 investment and potentially even bringing a headquarter of the company to Canada if so interested. Not required, but if interested. Back to you.
Great. Thanks, Sunil. So what we did was we collected questions from people who had RSVP'd, and we have selected about 8 of them to come to you. So I'm just going to shoot these questions your way, and you can be candid about them. So the first one, so there is a tiny little country to the south of your border, and where you have spent good amount of time, and you came back to the true north to work in the venture ecosystem and do your stuff. Why should companies looking at the broader North American perspective consider Canada in the first place?
A lot of reasons. I mean, we've read these articles. They're kind of interesting. There's been so many of them which are talking about the rise of centers outside of Silicon Valley, right? Even in the US. In music, the shift is arguably, into a city like Nashville, or in film and lifestyle, it's into Miami. Or into, from e-commerce, it's into New York. So there's been a shift in the US, but more importantly, and to your question, other cities and centers around the world have risen in terms of their tech prominence. And really what that means is, what is it like to be an entrepreneur in that place? And it's not just the company, I think, running the company, but you have to also live and feel safe and feel welcome. And so one of the obvious points about Canada is that it's a country predicated on immigrants. My parents immigrated. I was born in Canada, but my parents obviously immigrated from India. And, a city like Toronto, I'm guessing it's come up already in maybe some of your earlier talks, but according to the United Nations, the most multicultural city in the world, has the highest percentage of foreign-born residents of any major city in the world. It's over 50%. There's a lot of people from the South Asian diaspora here coming in every day. Even in the pandemic, there are arrivals of permanent residents and people who are coming here on express entry visas to work in the tech ecosystem is happening every single day. And the conditions for the companies are quite strong here. I would say one more thing that doesn't get spoken about a lot, and I think it actually is interesting from an Indian context, is there's much less internal job shifting from important employees within companies in Canada versus the US. And I think in India, it's even more pronounced than in the US, where people are, kind of leaving one good opportunity for another for a slightly higher pay packet or slightly bigger options pool participation. Canadians, for whatever reason, are quite loyal to their companies, which leads to you can establish a more effective culture than in some other places and count on your employees being there, not always having to worry that they're about to go to a competitor. But livability of cities, it's a very dynamic city. It's a very exciting place to live. As I mentioned, home to a lot of immigrants. It's getting more expensive, which is not a positive signal for coming here. But the talent pool of engineers, software developers, designers, marketers, business people is quite deep, and that's proven by all the interest of large tech companies that are announcing big offices in Canada, and particularly in Toronto, sometimes also in Vancouver, sometimes in Montreal, and even a few other cities. But they're coming here because they know that our universities are producing a lot of smart people eager to join companies. And compared to the US, salaries with our Canadian dollar being about 20% discounted to a US dollar, a little more than 20% usually. And some other benefits that you have here, it's a more efficient way to run a company in terms of cost.
Great that you touch upon the point of talent, because someone who's known to you, Lloyd Lobo of Boast AI, he was one of the speakers early on, and he referenced you a few times. But he was also making this point around talent and the stickability of talent with companies, and why it is easier to build a company much longer with lesser capital because talent sticks around for a while. So moving from that, given that Canada is a relatively smaller market with roughly 35 million people, and because you have kind of dealt with a good number of Indian startups over the years, whether in the US or in Canada, from an Indian startup ecosystem perspective, are there specific kind of startups that are better cut out to make Canada their home?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't always know which ones they are, but it does match with the strength of the industry and kind of the flow of money. So here, there's been so much focus on AI, for example, machine learning, and deep technology. There are these things that the Canadian government has done, rightly or wrongly. I'm not arguing for the efficiency of these kind of initiatives, but there is a lot of money in things called super cluster initiative for AI, or there are some programs where if you're an entrepreneur with a deep technical domain and you're showing up here in a certain location within Canada where there's depth, then that industry aligns well with you. Now at Techstars, I want to just shift it. We're a city program, so we're open to any industry vertical. So it can be, any type of tech company, apart from maybe like hardcore biologics manufacturing or, real deep life science, because we're not really equipped. We don't have wet labs, and we really run as a typical tech accelerator with a bunch of desks on a WeWork when we are in operation physically. But machine learning and AI, this is an area we love to see that. E-commerce, with the presence of Shopify, we've now seen, and I don't think it's always been in the case, but there's a lot of direct-to-consumer brands and companies doing package delivery logistics and other platforms for e-commerce. And of course, that's become the most important way that we all around the world are essentially surviving now is through e-commerce. Fintech. I want to say you had Kanchan on with Remitter. Definitely we're a banking center. One of the world's, I would say actually Toronto is interestingly the top city in the world where you have the equal presence of banking headquarter decision making in sort of financial services, wealth management, stock trading, cryptocurrency, payments, loyalty, all of that, and software development, like talent, meaning that we are producing a lot of software developers every year from the universities and people just working here and moving here. So as a result, fintech is very exciting to grow from Toronto. But, other areas like, marketplaces and on-demand economy and, gaming, even hardware, where we see it all here. And so really it's about, do you see this a place you want to, be, or you don't even have to be here. Well, I'm not advocating either for moving to Canada as a permanent resident, but if you feel this is a good place to have your North American headquarters for ease of operation and making it a fairly efficient place to run the company, the US is just, it's on the doorstep. It's very easy to go and do your sales meetings. And of course, now it's all Zoom anyway.
Cool. Thanks for that. So now, so you have seen companies move to Canada from different parts of the world, and without keeping it restricted just to India, what are the do's and don'ts a company which is already established elsewhere but moving or relocating to Canada needs to be aware of, if there are any?
Well, at the high level, intellectual property, making sure you're doing a proper IP rights transfer if that's what you need. Thinking through any issues with taxation or being a company in two countries, some sort of sensible decision as to like what's the top company, where is that going to be, and why. If the interest is making it in Canada, where it's British common law system, rule of law, it's very consistent and understood. It is reasonable to open up a company here, hire a reasonable lawyer. Don't pay too much, just do it properly, but have the company set up and maybe add one or two people who are Canadians to your board of directors. I've joined quite a few boards of directors, even in times when I really wasn't wanting to or expecting to, but in the transition period of setting up the company, because something as simple as opening up a bank account here, they really expect that there's somebody who's Canadian who they can check credit scores, and it does mean that you sort of put yourself out there on your director of companies that you may not know every aspect of their day-to-day operations. So there is a level of confidence with the founders. But if the goal is to kind of come here, then that helps. You set up the company, you continue. Of course, I think we're talking to mostly people from an economy with 1.3 billion people, and here we're talking, as you said, a country of 35 million. The market is generally not going to be for Canadians, right? What investors get excited about is huge markets: India, China, now the rise of Africa. But doing it with a globally mindset, a company with a global mindset and team understands that complicated country of India and how to do business there. But being a Canadian company, with a headquarters here in downtown Toronto, where investors can deploy some money, exciting. That doesn't happen easily when you think that angel investors or even seed funds from North America, even the US, are writing checks into India. That's not as common as it could be, and it's because it's a complicated place. So doing it in a place like Canada makes things kind of palatable for investors, and they can kind of see the company and appreciate that we're talking about a big market that's growing so fast, and now we can be, even a small investor, but participate in that huge growth.
But so for overseas companies, and this is a question that we've got from at least 4 different startup founders who I think are very keen or interested in moving to Canada. And their question is around, for an overseas company relocating or moving to Canada, how easy or difficult is it to raise investments locally?
Well, it's not easy. I actually think it's easier to raise, high net worth money in the United States, where the tech, like in a place like Silicon Valley, I've seen more of those investments happen. But the good news is we're seeing more of it here. And particularly when you start to tap into people who come from some sort of global diaspora themselves, where they've moved here. It doesn't have to be from India; it can be from anywhere. We have so many really brilliant people in the finance and tech ecosystem who've come from Iran or Pakistan or Nigeria. Even now, we're seeing, and they are able to appreciate the insights of that founder team and make an investment. So it's not easy, but it can be done. I think it's about how you articulate what you're doing and kind of become maybe it's through that's why to just digress, that's why I think accelerators can be very, very effective for international startups, because we have, I'll speak about mine, there are many others, but we have the ability to de-risk an entrepreneur team from another country because of the understanding that we went through a very rigorous selection process. This company is here because we're the first check or an early investor. We're not doing it for any sort of immigration scheme or any purpose to, just charge money to bring you to another country like a consultant. No interest in that, and investors know that too. So therefore, it creates alignment that we're in it the way you are, and we saw some sort of talent here, and we did some homework and due diligence, and we might even continue to invest. So it creates that kind of momentum, and of course, you can see that in programs like Y Combinator, 500 Startups, many others, where the companies are discovered from global markets, invested in, and then before long, it's something you read about in Crunchbase as a nice funding round came together. Without the accelerator, it gets a little harder, I think. You have to then take it on yourself to find those early investors through your own networks, and maybe you can do that. Maybe you have them, and then in which case, we'll see those same Crunchbase articles pop up.
So the next three questions I have are linked, and because you spoke briefly about immigration and PR, the next three questions are linked to that. So especially for your Techstars program, yes, now all the programs are virtual, but for companies coming through to your programs, is there any kind of recommended visa that most of them they would funnel through or come through?
Well, we are designated with the startup visa, and I heard some reference. I don't know, has that been a big topic over this session? It's not a visa that gets a lot of use in Canada because of how it's set up, and it actually relates to the topic we just talked about, whether investors are really able and eager to invest internationally and exploit an immigration advantage, which actually does something called, I call it country arbitrage. You're taking a investment valuation in a country like, say, India, with a certain constructive team and market size and traction, and flipping it to a North American market. The valuation may be much higher had that company been in North America to begin with, right? So investors can use that as an investment tool. I don't know if they really are. That's one challenge, I think, here. But coming to Canada, like I said, we're a country of immigrants. There are many ways to come here. There are no shortage of immigrants here through normal channels. There's also now the express entry visas and ways to bring talent into companies, which might be a strategy as well. You take a job, and depending on how early stage you are, for instance, I run the Founder Institute pre-accelerator here, and I know there's a few chapters in India. I do it as a volunteer, but I've been doing it long enough for 5-6 years that I know there's a lot of early stage entrepreneurs who really, whether they realize it or not, they're not going to be able to make that company stick. It's not going to be as viable as they expected, but they're talented and they want to do something. They're very ambitious. So to come in as a key hire for another company and get that express visa entry, once you're here, and you can then start to be, let your entrepreneurial passions unleash and run companies. And by then you could probably get your extensions and lead to permanent residency and then citizenship. I've seen it. I see it all the time.
That actually leads in well to a next question, and because you talk about residency, so one of the respondents to our questionnaire has asked that he is a Canadian PR holder, and the PR is valid until 2022. And does holding a PR before landing in Canada give you added advantages or benefits in setting up a company locally?
Yeah, it gives you advantages. You don't have to be concerned with your status and just being here. So you can, if you have your PR, essentially you're under the clock. You need to start to come here. You have to be here 3 years out of the first 5 and show that, you actually do have an interest to live in Canada. And of course you can travel back and forth and you can launch a company. So it's not tied to any particular job. You have your permanent residency. I suggest if you have that and it's important to you, you start to use it. Tricky time now with pandemic and restricted travel, but I think I'm imagining the government is taking that into account on the the time you're supposed to spend in Canada. You can do a lot of things virtually. Without the PR, then it's a little. There's some other things you have to consider. Sometimes people are coming through the student programs. You graduate from any university or college, you get to work here like 2 years, and from that, I see them ending up working at a Shopify or at an ed tech company like Top Hat, Desire to Learn. There's some big companies here hiring lots of people, and then from there, I sometimes see those same people. I don't know them at the beginning. I don't know everybody, but I sometimes see those kind of people then launch a startup, maybe through Founder Institute, or maybe they apply to Techstars. And what they're doing is they're coming from a company that brought them to Canada, and they're working here, but they're kind of doing a side hustle. So they're working in a company, but there's a startup there that they have as well, and they're somehow managing. And the other thing is, when you come to a place, and if I can imagine, if I was living in India and by myself, if I was a lot younger, let's say, and I moved to Canada by myself, I would have a lot of time on my hands to work like crazy and to do those two things, and work at night and do a tech company back with my team in India. It could be done, and I see people doing it, but it's a lot of work.
That's a lot of tips and ideas for some people in the audience, and this of course is kind of getting recorded, so we'll kind of put out snippets whoever has not been able to attend. So
it's
the next
expensive to live here. That's one of the issues. Is like sometimes people come and without a big funding round, and the company of course has expenses, and there's teams and salaries have to be paid, and so this city is just speaking about Toronto, but Canada generally, like, it's not inexpensive for housing. So you should think of a way to kind of give yourself a runway to live and to rent a condo or even if you share a shared living, you have to have the way to keep yourself going here. And so sometimes working in good tech companies or even banks, even regular companies, the salaries are pretty good, and you can kind of earn a good living, and maybe that's what you want anyway. Like that's not a bad outcome.
Yeah, and it also gives you the cost arbitrage, right? Like, I mean, if you're doing it as a side hustle, the building of the company, and you have people or team in India which is doing that, I guess it gives you that little bit of a cost arbitrage, and you're able to kind of do your work. You're able to put in some hours post work, working with the team back in India and building a company, and eventually that becomes your main thing rather than the job that you're doing. The last one, in terms of visa and immigration. So there is a question which says it's a paragraph from the startup visa program, and it basically reads that the designated organization supporting you holds at least 50% voting rights in the business. And does voting rights mean equity? And if yes, isn't 50% too much for early stage companies coming through the startup visa route?
The rule. The designated entity is not supposed to own 50% of your company. You're supposed to own more than 50%, the people immigrating. And to be honest, you should own a lot more than that, I would think. It's your company. Do not give 50% of your company to some organization that's there to try to immigrate you to Canada. That is a crazy proposition. I mean, I only know, I'll speak for Techstars. We make investments of $120,000 US. And typically it's 7%, 8%, 9% at most common shares in the company for the money. And that doesn't matter if you're immigrating or not. So giving up half your company to I don't know. I don't fully understand the question. I hope that's not what's happening, because that wouldn't be fair to anybody, particularly you. So don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, I think it's not a Canadian government site from where this link has been posted either. It's just for Canada or whatever. Okay, so I have one last question from the pool, after which we can open it up to the audience and probably take a couple more. So, okay, Sunil, looking at companies like Paytm, and this is my question, looking at companies like Paytm that have gone on to set up Paytm labs in Canada, it's essentially a dev shop, because Paytm does not really have big business in Canada like it does in India. So it's almost like reversing the trend of outsourcing, but it is more of high value or tech jobs or tech talent that Paytm doesn't find in India, because of which they have set up Paytm labs in Toronto and then expanded it into Vancouver as well. So I mean, are you seeing that as an increasing trend globally? Companies from elsewhere, unicorns, decacorns, leveraging Canada more from a talent perspective and kind of reverse outsourcing, so to say?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, American companies, there's been a long run of it, and it's been increasing. We've even seen, for instance, a big announcement. One of our famous AI companies based in Montreal, Element AI, was recently acquired by a U.S. publicly traded company called ServiceNow. When you read the articles, you sort of see what the purpose of that acquisition was. Well, they've assembled an enormous number of PhDs and experts in machine learning, and had a business model that was whatever it was. And now, really the value is in acquiring those people and putting them into a division of this American company. We've seen that a lot. Now, your question about Paytm, I mean, I did notice when Paytm came here many years back, and they have they have their own standalone building in downtown Toronto that says Paytm. I thought that's really unusual that an Indian tech company is now setting here, and it's not a business process outsourcing company like a Wipro or TCS or anything. It's an actual product innovation, payment technology company, and it's here. Like, why is it here? Well, they sense that there's a lot of that same talent that other companies sense that is here. And then I expected something else. And I haven't been there a lot, and I don't know a lot, too much about Paytm, but I had gone in a couple times, and I was expecting to see an entire building filled with, Indo-Canadians, like Indians working for Paytm, which wasn't the case at all. I mean, there were some, but it was, typical tech company, and then I expected, maybe the salaries will be really low. These are just my own biases. Thinking, and then I talked to a few people, and they said, no, it's really we get paid I took this job, I was working at Amazon before or something, So it's to your question, will you see more of that? I don't know, like a Ola or some company would come here and hire engineers, maybe. Why not? And if they do, then maybe those are great companies to join and get great positions.
Absolutely. So now we have. So I'm done with the questions that I had. So I'm reading out a question from one that someone has posted. So Kaizad, who's the CEO of a company called Get Natty. So it's a fashion tech startup, a video commerce startup. What are the best accelerators and seed stage investors to apply into in Canada for companies that are beyond idea stage or proof of concept or early signs of product market fit?
Well, so there's a definition that we should always talk about between incubators and accelerators. I think your question is accelerator, and I think when you ask that, you're sort of thinking about Y Combinator or Texas. One's the brands 500, Acceleprise. So there aren't really a lot of accelerators in Canada. There are many more in the U.S. and around the world, but we have a lot of incubators. We have a lot of innovation hubs. Okay, so these are places where you can go and get support. You can get connections. Now, that's different. It's not usually they're not equity investors. They're not taking any stake in your company for money. So you're going to be getting some level of support from them. In almost all cases, you need to be Canadian. So, because they're funded generally by governments, whether federal, provincial, municipal, or nonprofit agencies, in direct or indirect money, they're not really designed to support companies or entrepreneurs in other countries because it's, Canadian taxpayer dollars that are being put to work. So if you are a Canadian and you're here and you're just living here, and it doesn't matter citizen or PR, if you're a Canadian and there's an entity here, then you will be able to tap into their support, whatever that's worth. Okay. But to be honest, in terms of accelerators, there are not that many. Montreal, there's an accelerator called Founder Fuel, which Real Ventures has run for some time. Founder Fuel, and they operate on a batch-based, cohort. Many companies apply, come in at a certain time. There's some investment made, and then there's a demo day, graduation at the end. For the Canadians, there's programs like Next. There's one called Creative Destruction Lab, CDL, which I don't know as much about it as I'd like to. They run it themselves. And they have it's university linked, so they have campuses and university. As I understand, it's meant to kind of stimulate innovation from within university labs and university held IP and professor IP and postdocs and grads. Highline is one that I started because it's the extreme. They have a model where it's a little bit of company creation and corporate innovation. So they you can talk to them. There's a bunch on the if you're back to that startup visa question. There's a bunch listed on those designated entities. They're not all accelerators. They're I would say the majority are nonprofit incubators, and they should be there to just be helpful to you. They shouldn't be there to take a bunch of your company or anything. They should be there. Their goal should be just bring you to Canada because you're going to create jobs here and create increase wealth in Canada, and we want you here versus some other place in the world. So they should get we want to land you in a part of the country. I think in Eastern Canada, like in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, where there's opportunities and there's some they want people. Because we have migration movements within Canada, like where the big cities like Toronto and Vancouver and Montreal and Ottawa are attracting people from some smaller centers, and so they're having population deficits. So maybe bringing entrepreneurs into a place where you can live, but also where you can contribute immediately, and you'll be doing something very innovative and bringing a global perspective. That's fantastic for a region, and they should want you to go there and do it and be very appreciative that you're there, and hopefully make it easy for you to come.
I'll just take one more. So there's someone who has done a raise of hands. So Gaurav, I think I'll need your help in allowing Aditya to come on stage. So Aditya is the innovation head for iHub Gujarat, which is a state-owned large organization. So hey, Aditya, you're good to go.
Yeah, hi. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, you are audible.
Yes. So first of all, my name is Aditya, and I work as an innovation head at iHub Gujarat. So actually, I had this question in my mind. It is a bit out of context as we are talking about only startups here, startup moving to North America. So I do want to get some insights on the opportunities for people who are working as enablers in startup ecosystem. So is there any opportunities for them to move to North America?
Good.
People that are working in the innovation ecosystem, but that is what we were. I think that applies to all of what we were talking. Are you saying to just come as someone in the ecosystem there who can come and work in the ecosystem here?
It's exactly.
Well, I would, if I was to be a public policy person, which I'm not, I would say that would be very strategic and positive for Canada. Imagine taking someone from this Gujarat iHub, innovation network that you would be just using you as an example, would be well versed, well connected, understand the ecosystem, or someone like Ajay. If he wasn't Ajay, you're a Canadian. No, okay. I always were. I met you here so many times. Okay, I thought you had your peer, but someone like Ajay or you, Aditya, would be brilliant to have in Canada because it's what you're going to do implicitly is bring the global mindset and the connectivity to small market Canada, right? Where our startups and entrepreneurs and upstart business people aren't really, as well versed in what's going on around the world, particularly these big markets. And so you're able to basically be a catalyst that can connect ecosystems. And I feel that's very, very powerful. That's why I love Techstars so much, is because we have 45 accelerators in the world and we connect with each other. So I'm on the call, yesterday I zoomed in my Tel Aviv, Israel colleague to an AMA that I did for applications for Techstars Toronto with 30 minutes notice, and we do that on purpose because we can show that the network of mentors and investors, corporate innovation partners, government agencies, all of that in a country like Israel gets connected into the Techstars companies in Canada, right? And so your role, if you were to come over, would be very valuable because you would expand the thinking and the opportunities for the clients of the innovation ecosystem and wherever you would end up. So I would say that's good to do. Now, can you do it? That's the question, right? Of course, you'd have to be hired. So I would hope that, again, if I ran the organizations, I would try to hire people from other networks and say, here's your offer. I'm going to bring you, we want you here. We're going to do the work visa applications and we're going to take that upon ourselves, and because we want you to come, and here's your compensation, and you're welcome to stay as long as the work visa allows you to. And if you want to stay longer, then you can start these other applications of PR and whatnot. Once you're here, that becomes a lot easier. You don't need things like startup visas. You're already in Canada working, and you just extend it, and then you end up like everybody else who's from India here, or Pakistan, Bangladesh. There's so many people. You just ended up living here if you want. So I hope that answers it.
Sure. Thank you for that answer.
Thanks, Aditya, for the question. Anyone else? We can just take one more question, possibly. If anyone having a question, just you can do either raise of hand or probably just put in a question in the chat window, and I'll pick it up. Sunil has anyways put his email address in the live chat section. We have one more person who has raised. Yeah, we have Subu from Discover Dollar, who is a Techstars alumni.
Oh wow, Subu! All right.
Hi, Sunil. Good to see you.
Did you do Techstars Bangalore?
No, I did Techstars Berlin in 2018 and then Jack.
Okay, Berlin. Okay.
Yeah. Couple of things. My experience with Techstars has been great. That was our first exposure to go global, but Europe was a wrong place for us. But through that, we connected to Canada, US, and now I can say we have a good set of customers in Canada as well, including Canadian Tire, Hudson Bay, etc. More than half a million opportunity we have tapped there. My question is more on I already have a PR for Canada. So would you advise to move the whole founder team to, because we have a lot of customers there, would you advise coming to North America, staying in Toronto, traveling to US? Is that a model which works for a typical company who is having their engineering team here, but selling to North America? Or is there anything else as a model which has worked under many startups you have already seen?
Yeah. I mean, it is a model that does work. I'm not here to advocate that all the brilliant entrepreneurs from India leave India and move to Canada. Like, believe me, I'm not here to try to even suggest that. But if you are interested as part of your life journey to do something new and try a new country and expand in global markets, I think this is probably better than most other cities that I can think of. So I'm an advocate for what's happening in Canada in terms of coming here and like starting or bringing your tech company and bringing some founders with you and tackling the US market versus, maybe going to the US. I think coming here is a trend, and the rise of Toronto is real. Other cities as well, but I think I'm just living here right now. I think I'll live all over Canada. But really, if it's what you want, and India, I've been to India many times. I sometimes think I want to live in India. Like, I want to live in Mumbai and like experience it and show it to my kids, and get back to roots and culture, and I think at some point I'm going to do that. But I think it's just part of what you want, what's good for the business. And I think in today's modern entrepreneur, it's really not the focus is building billion-dollar companies, right? That's what drives you. You want to create enormous value for your company, your shareholders, your customers, make an impact in the world. And wherever you feel that is the best conditions, you're going to probably think about going there. And you were in Berlin already, and you experienced Berlin. And I've experienced Berlin. It's amazing in many ways, but maybe it's not the perfect place to live for you. And I don't think it's the perfect place to live for me. It's a fantastic city. It comes down to your personal ambition and the timing in your life. But if you are interested, if you want to do it, I think it will work well.
Sure. Thanks, Sunil. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any one last question? We have Sunil with us for a few more minutes. One last question. If not, we can say thank you to Sunil for the good 40 odd minutes he has spent with us, giving good insights, answering questions, also some deeper insights about how do you go about kind of making Canada home. You're trying to build a global company out of North America. Cool. I don't think we have any further questions. So thanks Sunil for taking the time. Yes, go ahead.
No, I just said I put in the chat two things. One is I put the application deadline for Techstars. So this is what I'm focusing on right now is the next 10 companies. We've had some really, I think some really strong accelerator batches here from Techstars Toronto over the last 3 years. And so now this is for the 4th year program. And so if I don't really know who's on this call, this is kind of asymmetrical. So
Sure.
I think Ajay told me there's a bunch of great startups from India that he's, that are part of Startup Reso. That's fantastic. Good enough. I know that the quality is going to be high. So if you're interested in applying, it's important to get it started by Sunday. Just at least get it started and finish it soon after. And so that's one thing. Then I put my email in. For that, you can ping me a question, add me on LinkedIn, no problem. I'll do my best. But if you're specifically in the process of startup visa, because there was so much comment on that, I'm happy to hear what your plan is or what your offer is, and I can give you my perspective because I've been aware of that program since day one, and I'll be happy to speak to you one-on-one, give you some of my own personal advice if you're in that already. If you're just thinking about it, the information's online, and all those entities are listed. You have to kind of get to them, but there are some things I will tell you if you want to talk to me privately.
Sunil, there's this one last question, and this links back to your Techstars conversation. How helpful is the Techstars community from other cohorts, other cities? I think so. If you join Techstars Toronto or Bangalore.
So, so the way I look at it is that I'm kind of looking after a lot of the Techstars presence in Canada. And many companies go to different Techstars, like in Berlin or Bangalore or in London, New York, or in Toronto. But they come to Canada. They're either Canadians. Usually, they're Canadian people that went to a Techstars for 3 months and then came back to Canada. So what we try to do very proactively is build a network for all the alumni who are in a given place. And so we do things, we gather, we have Slack groups and newsletters and WhatsApp groups, and I'm very known to those people, so I'm trying to help. Then at Techstars, at a high level, we do community programming, and we have software that unites us. So we have our own internal tools. One product is called Techstars Connect, and we kind of share, lessons learned, hiring opportunities, questions on legal structure. We do all that within the organization, and we now have 3,000, probably 200 portfolio companies, 3,200 around the world, and it's growing by about 500 companies per year. So it's getting to be a huge network, and I think it's it's a great network. It's getting to be very cohesive, and we do some events like FounderCon, where we gather. But of course, with pandemic, it's been an issue with physical meeting. But we're doing more and more of it online, and I feel like it's working well. And our network is just powerful and big. And it's a similar thing you see with Y Combinator. It's a great network around the world, and people wear it with pride. And just like we saw Aditya come on, I'm a Techstars alum from Berlin. There's a fraternity and cohesiveness amongst alumni, and we try to keep that going.
Cool. I'll just end it with that. Thank you so much, Sunil, for taking time at such short notice and doing an awesome AMA, as well as taking some impromptu questions. Look forward to keeping in touch, and I'm sure that people in the audience will reach out to you, and we'll definitely reconnect on the whole application process for Techstars and send some good companies your way. So have a good day, and thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.